Hey guys, what's up? It's Coach Smith, Pure One Sports, and today we're going to discuss speed workouts. I found that a lot of high school coaches understand mechanics and techniques of acceleration and top speed training, but people are interested into knowing how to actually apply these concepts into their speed workout. Today at Pure One Sports, we put together a list of some of our favorite speed training routines. Build-ups. One of our top speed training drills are build-ups. To set the drill up, simply place 5 cones in a straight line, 10 to 15 yards apart, covering a total distance of about 50 to 75 yards. Have the athletes start and gradually build up speed in between each phase throughout the entire distance. The most important aspect of build-ups is to have the athlete lock into their form from the first step. They should punch that knee forward and begin the step-over technique from the initial step. If correct mechanics aren't locked in from the start, it will almost be impossible for the athlete to transition into faster speeds. Start out with about a 65% burst, and once they have entered phase 2, they should accelerate to about 75. The third phase continue to accelerate, and then the last one be right underneath top end speed. The athlete should remain very relaxed using great arm action, throwing their hands down and behind past the hip, which will allow the stride length to reach full potential. Once your athletes feel comfortable floating during this last phase, they can gradually extend the final phase, maybe 15 to 20 yards further. Next, we have flying 20s. Now, when first introducing flying 20s to your athletes, place a start cone with another at 15 to 25 yards away. The third and fourth cone should be 20 to 40 yards away from the second. The first and second cone is what we call the acceleration zone. The second and third is the actual fly zone, and the third through fourth is what we call the decelerative zone. Have the athlete again lock into their form, as we mentioned earlier, and accelerate to the first cone utilizing the step-over technique. Once they enter into the fly zone, their body position should be upright and tall with the foot striking directly underneath their hips. The coach should see a definitive transition in speed once they enter into the fly zone. Coaches should look for an increase in velocity as the athlete punches the gas. The 20 meters of the fly must be aggressive yet relaxed. Arms are the key to increasing velocity, and you should definitely see an increase in their speed, which will create a faster turnover. Be certain that athletes aren't trying to muscle through the zone with their arms, which will actually cause them to decelerate. Once they exit the fly zone, they will begin to decelerate, but don't allow them to disengage from their mechanics. Make it a priority that they control their deceleration and not allow their technique to fully fall apart. Place an emphasis on decelerating for the entire 20 meters with great control and keeping them locked into great technique. In the beginning, it will take several sprints for the athletes to develop a feel for their rhythm. Athletes will have to teach their bodies how to fly through the zone at 100% intensity, but while remaining relaxed. Once the athlete has mastered the fly after accelerating for 15 yards, you can then start to extend the acceleration phase to 20, 25, and even 30 yards, depending on the experience and the strength levels of the athlete. Remember, athletes should remain totally relaxed during the float phase and display great mechanics throughout each individual zone. Now next, going off the 20s is the flying 30s. Once your athletes feel comfortable floating for those 20 yards, try to extend the sprint so that they now float for 30 and even up to 40 yards. The acceleration progression should remain the same as the flying 20, but yet now they're floating for 30 to 40 yards. Next, we have the sprint float sprint. Now, when first introducing the sprint float sprint series, place a cone at the start and a second at 15 yards. The third cone should be placed at 25 yards and a fourth at 35 to 40 yards. The first and second cone is the sprint zone. Second and third cone is what we call the float zone, and the third and fourth zone is another sprint zone. Now check this out. The athlete will come out accelerating aggressively for the first 15 yards and then float as they enter the second zone. Remember, when floating, the athlete neither gains nor loses speed, but maintains the speed reached in the first zone. Body position should be upright and tall, with the foot striking again directly underneath the hips. Now, once the athlete has entered into the last phase, they will try to re-accelerate to 100% of their max speed for the last 10 to 15 yards. Now, once the athlete feels comfortable floating for 15 yards, the acceleration phase can be extended to 20 yards with the same pattern followed. Speed workouts, must understand, takes time to master, but with practice, your athletes can conquer them. Next, we have a float sprint series. Place 5 cones in a straight line, 10 yards apart, covering a total of 40 yards. The sprint float is great for developing sport-specific speed and teaching the athletes how to change gears. This time, have the athlete lock in and only come out with a 65% effort. Once they have entered into the second phase, try to accelerate to top speed, then decelerating to 75% entering phase 3. Coming into the last phase, athletes should try to re-accelerate again into a full-out sprint. Coaches and athletes make sure that sprint mechanics are maintained during both the acceleration and deceleration phases of this sprint. Now, here's a coaching point. Once athletes have sprinted through the last phase of any sprint drills mentioned above, make sure that they decelerate using great mechanics. Never allow athletes just to lose total control of their body or their technique once they have finished any of the drills. True speed workouts done at 100% intensity will only allow an athlete to perform 5 to 7 sprints of any of the above mentioned workouts. Inexperienced athletes may be able to perform slightly more because it's going to take them a little bit longer to get into rhythm and understand what it means to be at top speed. Remember that any speed workouts should be performed with full recovery in between reps. This is Coach Smith, Pier 1 Sports. Look forward to talking with you soon.